second inversion. But really, who cares about this stuff? You have them all at your fingertips. They're all there. They're all right there. How do you use this to your benefit? That's the question. But with inversions, welcome back to another episode of StichMethod. It's raining outside. Yes, I'm back home in Florida for a couple days before I hit the road again. But let's talk today about chord inversions and the absolute crap show that is out there trying to explain them. My goal today is to try and really simplify them on guitar and really realize that guitar is probably the best instrument to understand how simple chord inversions are and how to utilize them in your music. So with that being said, let's get right down to it. What is a chord inversion? Well, first, you really want to know what a chord is. And a chord is a series of notes stacked on top of each other. Today we're going to talk about just major chords, minor chords, stuff like that. But a major chord, let's just say you take an A bar chord like this. All right? That is a chord, and the idea is this chord is in what's called root position. Now, you've probably heard this before, but what that means is that this note right here, which is the root, is the bottom of the chord, the thickest part in the bass. What an inversion is when this root note is not in the bottom of the bass. And so I'm going to show you examples on guitar how easy really it is and how to incorporate it in your music. Basic fundamental knowledge of the cage chord system is a bonus and a plus and highly suggested, linked right here in case you don't know it. So let me show you really quickly, and we're going to thank Thunder Falcon, by the way. Thunder Falcon, if you're watching, thank you for the idea. We were on Guitar Hack's channel doing an interview and you asked this question. I thought it was a great question, so we're bringing it to the masses. All right, so let's just take a C-shaped chord now from the cage chord system. You kind of want to know how to do this stuff. All right, this is a C-shaped G chord. Here is my root. The root is in the bottom of the chord, the thickest part. So this guy here, that's a G chord in root position. Now you might hear something called a first inversion, and what that really means is when, and now this is all like interval, music talk, it's when the major third is in the bottom of the chord. Now, you don't have to think about it too much on guitar, but right here is your major third. If I just lift this pinky up and strum from this pinky, from this finger, which is the ring finger, forward, this is a chord inversion. The root is no longer in the bottom of the chord. Here is a root position. This is a major third. And so this would be called first position, just to let you know, when the major third is in the root. That's it. That's how simple it is. Now check this out. 1, 3, 5. That's my fifth. So you take this chord, if you lift this one up, if you lift this one up, you're left with really just the 7th fret, 8th fret, and 7th fret. And now you have the 5th of the chord in the bottom or thickest position. This is called a second inversion. You're probably like, what? But don't worry, it's very easy to understand. So a first inversion is when your root note is in the thickest part of the guitar or the lowest note of the chord. And here is your major third. If you strum from here, that's a first inversion. If you strum from this note here, now if you look at the frets, 10, 9, 7, 8, 7. I first strum from the 10, took that away. I strum from the 9, took that away. Here is the rest of the chords, 7, 8, 7. Instead of playing it like this, I can just play it like this. This is still a chord, but now the 5th is in the lowest position. And this is what they call second inversion. But really, who cares about this stuff? When you're a guitar player, you want to realize that you can play pieces of the cage chord as a chord, all notes at the same time. And you can get a root position, you can play a little mini piece of the chord, you can play an even more minier piece of the chord. These are just inversions. That's all it is. And so I'm going to show you another one. If you take a G-shaped chord, all right, and again, cage chord knowledge is a plus here. So if I take a G-shaped chord, here's my root. Right? And so if I strum from here, that's a first inversion. Sorry, that's a root position. Root position. Don't listen to me. If I lift this up here and I strum from this guy, that's the major third. Wherever you have a 1, there's a third, 1 fret back and 1 string over. 1, 3. Always on guitar, except for the G and B string. We can talk about that later. That's a root root position. Here's the same chord. I just picked my pinky up and strummed from here. That's what people would call a first inversion, but really it's just a piece of the chord. And if I lift this guy up, I have this bar across 5, 5, and 5. 1, there's my 3, here's my 5. That's your second inversion, second position inversion. So root, first inversion, second inversion. But I really don't care about that stuff. I don't care about it. I don't ever think about it. When you're playing guitar, you want to realize that you can play pieces of the cage chords. When I have this guy here, I can play the whole chord. I can play this little tiny piece here. Oh, sorry. I can play these notes here by doing this. I can play these notes here by doing this. These are all chord inversions, and you don't want to think of them too, like, you don't want to overcomplicate these things. You know, when you look at, when you look at Berkeley teaching these things, they're like, okay, you know, here's your first triad. You know, here's your second root. Sorry, here's your root. You know this guy. Here's your third. Here's your fifth. But when you look at them as a whole of your cage chords, you have them all at your fingertips. They're all there. They're all right there. All an inversion is when the root is not in the thickest position. So when you look at chords, in the cage chord system, I know I'm moving fast, but I'm excited and I want to show you this. In the cage chord system, there are two main types of chords. One where the first finger is playing the root, and this is the E shape, the A shape, and the D shape. Then you have where the pinky's playing the root, and that's the G shape and the C shape. And when you look at these, there are many inversions inside the chords, smaller little pieces of chords. You have, let's start with the E, A, and D shape. The idea is when you're playing this type of chord, the E, the A, or the D, there's always going to be a 1, 5, and a 1. 1, 5, 1. 1, 5, 1. That's for the E shape. If I move to the A shape, 1, 5, 1. If I move to the D shape, 1, 5, 1. So the inversions inside these chords take place after the 5 here, or on the 5. So you have this guy, root position, and then I can play this little chunk here, but I don't need to play it like this. I can play it like this. Okay, you're starting on the 5th. Okay, that's second inversion. But who cares? It's a piece of the chord. It is a chord inversion. The root is not in the bottom position. You have this guy, 5, 7, 7, 6, 5. You can play this guy. This is actually a root position because that's the root note here. But look, you also have the next piece, 6, 5, 5. That's a major third. So this is an A chord. If you look, these are all A chords. A chord, A chord, A chord, A chord. And those are all inversions. It is so simple. If you look at the A-shaped chord, here's your root position. Here's another triad. Sorry, oh my God, I can't believe I said that word. I hate that word. Here is another inversion, and here's another inversion. It's all inside the cage chord system, and they're just pieces. How do you use this to your benefit? That's the question. Well, on guitar, it is so easy to see them working because you really want to use these for the bass note. And so let me show you what I mean, okay? When you're writing a song, let's say you have G, F, and C. Right? G, F, C. Fine. And you want to write a melody or a part that's not just your basic root position chords. You find another voicing. Okay, so G. Let me get up here and play this G chord. Now check this out. This is the C-shaped G chord. But now I'm going to play from this note. And now the root note becomes like the lead. Boom. I can take this position down to the F. Now I want to find a C that's nearby, and I know I can play a C chord like this, but I'm keeping the root on the same string. So this is your G chord, but I'm playing an inversion, and I'm playing a line based off of, the D string, and I'm finding chord pieces or inversions where I can pluck the note on the D string and create a melody. And so you can create these bass lines, these melodies that come off the lowest note of the chord, but they're not the root. Let me take that same chord progression and use a different inversion. Here's a G-shaped chord. Well, I'm going to come off this D here. This little piece of the chord I'm going to use is, so I can go, now I can find an F here, let's see where I can find a C. Here. So here, back to F. So here's another, inversion built off a moving bass line using the string to create this linear motion. And so, when you're creating chord progressions, you can create melodies using chord inversions, just pieces of chords on your guitar neck. Excuse me, I have to watch the time right now. On your guitar neck to create moving linear bass lines. And here's that example. Here's G, F, C, F. And you don't have to play the root. It sounds amazing. Sorry, let me show you one of the best examples ever, which is Jack and Diane. The chord progression is A, E, D. And the songwriter or the guitar player didn't want to use those root position chords, so he played an A here. Now this actually is a root position. This is the 1, 3, and the 5. It comes from the A chord. Excuse me, I just spit. It comes from this E-shaped A chord, but here it is here. And then for the E, he finds the C-shaped E chord, but he's keeping the root. And he's going here, but he's playing from here. Moves this down two frets to the D chord, the C-shaped D chord. So he gets A, E, D. So you can hear inversions on guitar help you create moving melodies across the string, or down the string and up the string. And so when you can think of different pieces of chords, you get different bass lines that create such a cool melody. Another great riff I like is this riff here, which is, I'll show you. It's just awesome. It uses all chord inversions. Of course, being the song Free by one of my favorite bands, Fish. And if you look, it's a D chord to a C chord to an E minor, D, G, D. But what Trey Anastasio does is he creates the melody or the moving piece on the G string, and instead of playing the full E-shaped D chord, he's just playing the inversion that starts right here. Instead of this whole thing, he's just playing this. Comes up with a little melody based off the chord, moves this inversion down to the C. Now he needs to go to an E minor, which is here, so he plays off of these 3 strings. Here's the A minor shape. He just grabs the inversion piece that is played on the same 3 strings. Here's a D chord. He plays off the same 3 strings. Back to a G chord. D. So these inversions help create the melody. If I played that chord progression without these inversions, it would sound like this, like. But with inversions, and so inversions are just pieces of chords. Don't overthink it. Again, you can look up online. There's like, play this piece, play this. And if you don't see them as just pieces of your caged chords, you can do it for minor, you can do it for 7th chords. They are just pieces. And on guitar, it is so awesome because you can create lines that move the bass line up and down a string, creating really cool melodies, just like I showed you. And if you want to practice this stuff really well with some extra content, come join me on my Patreon page. I'm going to make some awesome videos on how to really work this into your system with different chord progressions in different places, so it helps like concrete the idea. Don't overthink chord inversions. They are just pieces of the chords that you already know. That is it. Thank you so much, Thunder Falcon and Guitar Hack, for having me on your channel, and thank you so much for watching another episode of StichMethod, and I'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Bye-bye.